So, here's another 4.5 minute segue in Life22, our back-to-back Thursdays. All right, so my dad has his living wake. He doesn't want people to. He feels that he's dying. I don't know. I feel like it's self-inflicted, but to each their own. And he doesn't want his he doesn't want, and I kind of agree with him on this. He doesn't want to witness his own. He doesn't want his own funeral or wake to happen, and have people come up and be like, I remember him from high school. He was a great guy. And like, no, that guy got in a fist fight with him. They hate each other. He doesn't want the untruthfulness and the garbage, that might, well, he's dead, so I gotta say something nice. Like, no, speak your mind. My dad had a living wake, and it was like a roast. And we filmed it. The filming and the audio might be a little subpar at the time. It was filmed with a GoPro, and I don't know if it was the best job, but we have it. So it was a roast. It was very funny if you had attended. There was a group of locals that made it to the area, and came and were at his living wake. But he did publish a self-written obituary to the newspaper, the local newspaper, the one that I described in a previous video. Do I condone what he did? No. Did he do it? Yes. Did they not catch it? Yeah, they didn't catch it. So they printed it. Then they had to print a retraction. So if you read this local newspaper, and I'm sure everybody who, lives in my town, city, knows what newspaper I'm talking about, the newspaper has a disclaimer. That disclaimer should have my father's name attached to the bottom of it, like in quotes, like, said by this guy, like, you do not submit false obituaries. Multiple discussions with my father. He still does not agree with me. I argue with him all the time. An obituary is a spot for a person who is deceased, but he wasn't deceased, so he's saying, well, it's about my wake. Well, yeah, I see eye to eye with the paper on that one, because an obituary is not an advertisement for a wake. It is a spot to honor the dead. Because he classifies himself as dead does not mean he's legally dead, or in the eyes of science is he dead. So my father has a wake, and it's awesome because my siblings love to just rip him apart like he's a dead piece of carcass on the side of the road and just chew at him like vultures. That was great. It was the best part of the living wake, was the roast. The roast. That's what it was. It was a roast. But I started a business after that. I started a business, Quinn's Wake Coffee House. It's in our area. It's local. It hemorrhages money like nobody's business, but all local small businesses do at their beginning within the first 3 years or whatever it is that typically mandates that. But he had I called the newspaper because like 3 other businesses had opened before me. I'd been notifying the paper about this, and then I notified the paper after we had opened. Like, I've been trying to contact, like, I know people that work for the paper. They're like, I'll try to make it. Like, they give me all these excuses and roundabouts and runarounds, and I'm just trying to figure it out. And so finally somebody says, well, why don't you call the editor? So I call the editor. Finally I get through to him, and he goes, well, wait a minute. Well, yeah. Oh, well, any business that opens is big news. It's big news. It's local business, blah, blah, blah. Like, front page paper because we got nothing to write about. Like, he didn't say that, but I know what he meant, because there's not a lot going on. Like, it's not New York City where there's opening businesses every day, or California where businesses open every second. For every child that's born in the U.S., there's 2 businesses that follow. Like, it's a small town, so I get it. Like, births are big, and birth of a business is big. That's it. Deaths are big. They're life events, and We don't have too many of them at 14,000, 12,000 and change, whatever the current population status is at. So, you know, we're at these. I talked to him, and he goes, "Well, wait a minute." He says, "Where's your business located? Oh, what's the business name? What's your last name? Oh, is that who you are? Oh, I'm sorry. We will never publish anything about your business or you, except for the fact that you just became an alderman. And you know why." And I'm like, "What?" "Your father did something, and you know why. Like a year later, you know why." Like, wait. "Oh, my father's living wake. Like, I'm sorry he duped you. I'm sorry that he fucked with you. You know, I didn't condone that. And I feel like this entire conversation, I feel like I'm Daniel Day-Lewis in The Sins of the Father, or is it the Sins of the Father? Like, I feel that's like, this isn't Hollywood. This isn't Hollywood. This is real life. And like, the bias of this local newspaper is all about a gripe because my dad one-upped them because they weren't paying attention, because one of his employees wasn't reading. They just got some random email saying this guy was dead from a private Yahoo account. Like, Jesus, what is going on? So I've been living with this grudge for a while. Like, this is a grudge. I've been living with this for a while, and it's like, you know what? Fuck it. They're gonna come after me. Other people are gonna come after them. They're gonna fire people. You know what? I'm tired of it. Like, you know, it's just like, your business is not gonna do anything because of what your father did a year before you opened that business. Had nothing to do with that business. You're like, that's bonkers to me. That's BANANAS, bananas. That's what that is. That's bananas. That's how you spell it. That's what it is. It's bananas. And I don't know. And I'm sorry I'm running past the 4.5 minutes that I promised you earlier, but that's nuts. And so, like, and then, like, finally they start sending in, like, ad people coming in like, "Oh, can we get your business? You're a local business. You just opened up. Let's sell you advertisement." Like, no, I'm not going to buy advertisement from you. Like, we sell your paper in our shop for the simple fact that there are some customers that want to read it. Man, I'll glance at the cover of it, the front page, to see what garbage or dribble you guys have screwed up or putting in there. But that's about it. I know that's probably gonna, you guys are probably gonna rescind my account tomorrow, whatever. But like, the fact that then what really peeved me was, we went, like, the missus, like, was looking for my son's birth. Like, my daughter was born, my father had his obit submitted to the paper, and so she was in the paper. We did everything we were supposed to do to get him in the paper, and he didn't show up, and she thought it was odd. And then I had this conversation 6 months after his birth, and he wasn't in the paper, and that like, really, like, because, and it brought me back to a point in the conversation where he's like, you won't see, and I'm sorry, I kind of clipped out there, you won't see anything about your family in this paper. You won't see anything about your family in this paper. Except for the fact that you are in local government, and we have to report about local government. And that's it. Like, so, okay, so my son died. Or my son was born. So, like, if a family member dies, like, what happens? And I'm sorry for the faux pas there. My son is born, he's not in the paper. This guy tells me this, the editor of the paper. And then, like, what if an uncle died? What if my son does die? Like, what if I die? The obit's not going to be in the paper because my father submitted what I consider a false obituary. He considers legitimate, whatever. To each his own. A lot of people don't agree with him, but that drives me nuts. Because he's a relative of mine. If the editor of the paper relative was a pedophile, I'm not saying that any of his relatives are. I'm just saying, if they were, would he be excluded from, like some horrendous crime? Would he be excluded from being having any just like public knowledge? Like, this person has died, this person was born, this person got married. Well, like that drives me nuts. On a newspaper, which to its own has the freedom of the press. They have the right, and typically that's reserved for the editorial section. Just like the obituaries are reserved for the obituary section, and the births and the hospital admissions and the police blotter are all to their own categories. The news section of a newspaper, the meat and potatoes. I mean, from a carrots and peas perspective and squash perspective of a newspaper, the meat and potatoes of the paper is supposed to be non-biased, and I would assume that like the facts of somebody being born and the facts of somebody dying would be incorporated into a newspaper, and that just it drives us nuts. And like the missus called friends of ours that that are married or related to people that work for the paper, and just pull up macrofiches and things like that of old papers. Like, maybe we missed it. Maybe they printed a retraction. Maybe they put it in there. Like, maybe they, I don't know. But his birth wasn't in there. That drives me nuts. One of my relatives was the one who called in for the retraction of my father's obit. Like, I hope when my uncle dies that his name is in the paper, but I fear it won't be published, and I hope that all his friends and family know that if and when he dies, or if and when something tragic happens and like they're doing something to benefit, for Christ's sakes, I hope they do something. But that conversation has been eating at me for like a year and a half now, since the coffee shop's been open. It's probably year and a half, year and a quarter, and then it was probably about 2 months. Finally, I got a hold of him. So yeah, it was about a year ago. This conversation happened. It's been eating at me. This is something that like burned on my brain. Like this. Oh, your dad did this, so we're fuck you. Like that's how I perceived it. So for a local paper to and then I got continue to be involved in local politics, and it just like, what the fuck. I feel like Matt Damon. Like, what the fuck? Like, it's one of those, those Boston films, the Good Will Hunting. I got the "How about them apples" speech just, a year ago, and I don't know. I guess I'm finally venting with it now, and whatever. Keep writing your fish rap. Keep writing it. I'm going to keep wrapping my carp in it. Hope to generate some local business. The carp industry. Thanks. I would tell you where to sit or where to put it, as the Fonz would say. Or as little Joni would say, sit on it. But you'll just finally write an editorial about me. So, see you next week.